Welcome gardeners to another of our weekly garden journals here on the Urban Gardener. I'm Enoch, and I'm really glad that you're all here with me to talk just a little bit about gardening. And if you haven't yet, get down below and hit that subscribe button to follow along with our channel here as we're really getting growing this gardening season. We've got a lot of things going on now that it's springtime, so many things happening. And I know a lot of people are indoors right now cleaning up their houses and doing their spring cleaning. But for us gardeners, it's getting outdoors and doing some of our spring weeding, because all of those weeds have been collecting and growing here all over my alleyway spaces throughout the winter time. I've been spending the last few days just digging in and getting those weeds pulled out. My fingers can really feel it right now, but things are looking really nice around the garden spaces. And as you saw, I got our water features all started up. It's really nice to sit back and hear all of that water flowing in your garden spaces, especially after doing a whole bunch of really good work and getting it all cleaned up. So that's kind of what I've been up to the last couple of days here, getting things cleaned up. I've still got a bunch more chores as far as actual yard work is concerned, but things are looking good. Again, as I said, we got some thinning I need to do in those garden boxes out back in the back patio. And what I want to do here on this video is kind of share just a little bit more about my gardening story, as it's been 10 years now that I moved here and started gardening in these spaces. Now, I shared a little bit of my whole gardening story for the introduction to the Johnny Appleseed Organics Gardening Invitational, which I'll put an iCard link right up above there to that video if you want to go check that out. But again, it's been 10 years now since I moved here and started my whole urban gardening adventure. So just a quick little look here. Talked about our fruit trees the other week, and we introduced this fig tree that I had growing indoors. Was doing really well indoors, growing really good. And then I brought it out here, and with a few cool nights and sunny days, it's been doing a little adjusting to the weather, but as you can see, it's starting to put off some new growth. So looks like it's going to get growing here real good real soon. The one I'm really liking right now, that apple tree. This apple tree I got a couple of seasons ago. It's just really putting off a lot of beautiful white blooms. So I'm hoping that we'll get plenty of fresh apples off of this tree this year. But it's just looking really nice. The whole shape of it and everything has just really come together over the last couple of seasons. And it's just really nice to see the tree just looking so healthy and growing so well. Now our pear tree here, which if you saw our video on pruning, we really cut this one back really good because I want to encourage it to kind of grow a little bit more off on this side, give it a little bit better shape. But we did get some blooms, so maybe we'll see a couple of pears off of this tree this season. But hopefully our pruning job will give us a nice well-shaped tree next year with lots of blooms on it like that apple tree. Then there's our frost peach tree here. It's had lots of blooms off of it. This is our oldest container fruit tree, and it's starting to put off all of its green shoots now. There's a lot of the blooms have been pollinated, and hopefully we're going to see a lot of nice fruit off of this tree. But I did move it from over here where we put it in the pruning video back here. I think this will just be a lot better spot for it. Still gonna get plenty of good sun, and hopefully we're gonna get plenty of good peaches. So now, as you can see there, that is quite a pile of weeds. So I've been working and pulling weeds all throughout our herb garden that we've got right up here up front. As you can see, we got the water fountain flowing with all these different varieties of mints that we've got in containers there. A little bit of sage, some garlic chives, and I've got some regular chives back there. And then this fresh parsley plant that I cut down all the way to the ground this last fall, and it's starting to grow back now really nicely. Just tasted some of it. There's nothing like fresh parsley. As well as getting just a lot of our alleyway spaces here as I'm getting ready to prepare these beds for planting here real soon. So I've been trying to get all the weeds and everything cleared up here so that everything looks really nice. Flowers and tulips are really blooming well right now. In fact, a few of them are kind of already spent, but it'd be nice to get these beds up and growing here real soon in the next week or two here. I've got some different ideas of what we're going to do here. As we'll start doing some vertical gardening as I'll build up some trellises. And another nice size weed pile there as we've been clearing out this garden bed that we've got here on the alleyway side of our back patio fence. Everything's looking nice now that it's getting cleared out. We've got lots of flowers getting ready to bloom here real soon. A couple of buckets for some tomatoes that will hopefully have some volunteers popping up out of here real soon as well. So we should be seeing those from our tomato volunteers real soon. I've got this lamb's ear here. This stuff is really, really soft, really nice. Got to cut this back though every year, as it will carpet your garden bed if you keep and let it go. Got some garlic that I must have left in from last season, so that's kind of a nice little surprise there, as well as, I don't know, one garlic here too. I'm not sure, clove must have got away from the main clove there, I think. I'm not sure, but I didn't plant those. We do got some of our Swiss chard we've been harvesting from over the last few weeks and throughout the winter. More garlic over there, and we've got some herbs, some oregano and things like that as well too. But we're going to be planting out some more of our summer type crops here real soon in this garden bed. So now on to one of the harder jobs of the year when it comes to gardening. Is I like to make sure that I'm overseeding to be sure that I've got plenty of each variety, and that I'm going to have them well spaced out when it comes time. But that means that you're going to have to thin out your seedlings. As you can see, we've got lots of good growers here, except for this one row that didn't turn out too well. But there's so many of these guys in here, we're going to have to thin them out. Now, pulling weeds out of your garden, that's not too hard to do at all. I love pulling those suckers right out. But when it comes to having to cut out a good portion of what you've sown out, it's a little tough to do. go. We've got our greens thinned out in this bed here. As you can see, they're about a couple of inches apart, which is going to be just perfect for these little gem varieties, as they're small little heads of lettuce. And our arugula and our cause might have to be thinned out just a little bit more as they grow out a little bit, but we'll see that later down the road, and we'll thin those out as we need to. You can see we got a nice little volunteer of some red lettuce there. We'll let that grow in. But as you saw, when we were thinning out there, we're using a pair of clippers or scissors, if you like, in order to cut these little starts out instead of pulling them. Now, similar to what I talked about in last week's video with those 6-pack vegetable starts you can get from the garden center, you want to cut those as well. You don't want to pull them apart in order to not disturb your root systems around the plants you're trying to keep. So pulling those out, if you were to pull them out, is going to disturb the roots and possibly stunt the growth of your plants, and you want your food as soon as possible. And while you're clipping and cutting those out, be sure to bring a bowl out with you and collect your microgreens. Those will be really delicious in a salad here a little bit later on. So now with radishes, the only thing I'm going to be really doing here is trying to make sure that if I've got any two that are just almost touching each other, I'm going to separate one of those from it all. But if they're about an inch or so, maybe even just a little less, that's going to be just fine. Radishes can grow kind of close together. You just don't want them just like bunched right up to each other. So yesterday, I was here clearing out this space I have here in my back patio area, and I was weeding and digging in and trying to get the soil all prepared to get things growing out this year. And it really got me to thinking about the fact that it's been 10 years since I moved here and started growing in all of these garden spaces. But this was my first space. I had just moved down here from an apartment I lived in, and the summer before, I grew out a cucumber plant and grew out my first cucumbers and my first bit of food that I've ever grown before. But I grew that out on a balcony off of an apartment. So when I moved down here, this space here was all I had as far as in-ground growing space. I hadn't quite expanded my thought and my horizons into containers and elevated raised beds yet, so I didn't look at the rest of the patio the way it is today. What I was concentrating on was just this strip of in-ground space that I had. And I really wanted to grow some tomatoes and some more cucumbers, some beans and peppers. And I did ultimately grow some tomatoes and peppers in this space that first season. And at that point in time, I was hooked really on growing my own food and really started expanding and looking into more YouTube videos. And that's when I really got connected with YouTube and the whole wider gardening community and started really looking into how I could expand these garden spaces and use the most I could with all of what I had. That, with my neighbor across the way who was growing in the alleyway spaces, really made me start looking at some of the other areas, like the other side of the fence, where we now have a really nice garden space in ground, and all over the alleyways as well. So we've really come a long way over the last 10 years, and it's really something to look back at where we started. And with that, we're going to end this garden journal for the week. I hope that all of you are having a wonderful gardening and growing season in all of your different garden spaces. Thinking about all the wonderful memories that you have in those different spaces as well. We've got a lot of really fun different things coming up here on our Urban Gardener channel, so I hope that all of you who haven't hit the subscribe button yet, get down there and hit the subscribe button. In fact, hit that bell notification so you can be notified of our upcoming episodes. We've got a lot of really great things growing on. As I said, we've got our micro pepper farm vlogs. We've got some new things coming up as far as that goes. And of course, we've got the Johnny Appleseed Organics Gardening Invitational. One of 6 competitors across the nation competing for $50,000 grand prize in 6 different gardening categories. And we've got a lot of things growing on as far as that goes. So there's going to be plenty of new content for that too. So I hope that you all come follow along with us. I'll see all of you on our next video. Whoa! So it was about 10 years ago that actually, that might actually be an issue. Just might actually be a bit too much background noise. Gonna have to unplug that while we're recording. That should quiet it down for filming for a moment. How's it going, George? How you doing, boy? Yeah? Get most of our spaces all cleared out. Oh. I think I got some of George's hair right on my nose.